Hi folks, GamerBug here again, and it's time for another Transformers video. What are we going to be talking about today? Well, we're going to the realms of creepy crawlies with the Insecticons, both the standard and deluxe versions, and pitting them against each other to decide which of the most recent legacy toys are the best. Before we start, just a quick reminder that if you do like the video, then do like the video. Every like helps, and if you're not, please do consider subscribing so you can see more of this content. Having smashed the 300 sub goals, thanks to you guys, we're now powering towards 400, and anything you can do to help that will be massively appreciated. Once again, thank you all. Back to the Insecticons, and I currently have 6 of these critters to compare. All of these, as I mentioned before, all came from the legacy lineup over the past few years. First up, from what I will call the original Insecticon lineup, which is kind of weird as technically all these Insecticons came out in the same year of 1985, we have Kickback. More recently, Kickback came out as part of the legacy toy line. Against him, we have the Deluxe Insecticon Ransack, which came out in the same toy line recently, but as part of the Creatures Collide multi-pack. Next up, we have Shrapnel, aka Scrapnel, aka Shrapnel, who was part of the Legacy Evolution line, and his adversary we have as Chop Shop, who came as part of the Doom and Destruction 3-pack in the Legacy United line. Finally, we also have from Legacy United the OG Bombshell, and he will be stacked up against the other Deluxe from the Doom and Destruction pack, Barrage. As we go along, it will become apparent why they are stacked up in this way. That out of the way, let's look at our first two contestants, Kickback and Ransack. Starting in robot mode, and it's off to a good start for both. They both look excellent, though in this case, if one does, both will, as they're both pretty much identical, with the obvious exception being the colour schemes. They also have different heads, but Ransack does have a trick up his sleeve, and he comes with a swappable head that's exactly the same as Kickback's, except for the colours. As a matter of fact, if you want, you can pop this on Kickback for a change of style and give him a more Arnie in Terminator vibe, and you can of course put the more buggy head on as an option as well. I feel the buggy visor look works better on Ransack though, but the other two are both cool for Kickback depending on your mood. So, besides heads and colours, they are identical, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Good, because the robot mode looks fab. Bad, because, well, we'll get to that later. Just looking at them side by side, and it is a hard choice, but I feel Kickback just about takes it with a better overall look due to the colours. And it doesn't help Ransack has some iffy paint application that does not match with the yellow plastic. I also think I slightly prefer Kickback's head, but I think that's an overall aesthetics thing, as when I put that head on Ransack, or the black version of it, I really don't like it. So it goes to show how weird my brain works. And I normally prefer the sort of visor faceplate look as well, so I mean it's close, and on another day I might choose Ransack, but I think here it goes to the original. Posability for each is pretty decent. Heads are on ball joints with a little side to side and up down movement, but not much. But both swivel 360 degrees with no impediments. Arms go out to the side, no problems, and there is a full range of motion all the way around with nothing in the way. We have swivel just under the shoulders, wouldn't call it bicep, with a 90-degree pivot here as well. No bicep swivel, but way past 90-degree elbows. There's no wrist swivel, but they do fold down for a good range of motion as well. There is a swivel at the waist, and the legs can kick out in all directions with full clearance. There's also a rotation at the thigh. Knees can pull a 90-degree bend, and the feet have rockers and a bit of toe up due to transformation. All in all, they're pretty average poses, but can get into a good range of stances. Accessories are the same for both, with the exception of the extra head for Ransack. Both come with a blaster with some sort of cool drum magazine attached, though I'd say Kickback's looks way better, but that's due to the very nice paint apps on it, which make it pop, whereas Ransack's is a plain boring black plastic affair. Both also come with these things that are kinda meant to be some sort of swords, but look pretty damn terrible. You can also use them as an unconvincing gun, or put them together as a kind of axe sword or swax, or I don't know. It still looks dumb. I will say you can mount them as a kind of weird wing things, which actually doesn't look too bad, even if it doesn't make sense because you're mounting them next to wings. Though they do look a little more cool and funky on Ransack, more so than on Kickback. First thing with either figure, turn them around. I like to move these wings just out of the way for ease. You find a little flap here. You're going to have to like dig your nail in, pull it up, rotate the head around, and then lock that into place, rather inconvincingly covering up the head. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take this arm, get this fist right here, rotate it around and inside itself so it looks something like this. Then we're going to basically grab the shoulder here and kind of put it down sort of 90 degrees, push this out and this like that. Generally that is what you're kind of looking for. It doesn't have to be perfect. On this side we're going to do the same. We're going to get the fist, flip it around so the little claw thing comes out, and do exactly the same here and make that look kind of similar as the other one. We're then going to get these wings and just push them back kind of here. They can be quite stiff and you're kind of just going for that swooping back bug kind of look. You're now going to take these 2 feet and push them up inside like so. Then we're going to rotate, and these things here, these purple legs, we're going to pull these down and out. They can get stuck a little bit here. Might need a little bit of pressure just to push them beyond that point like that. Just be careful. Do the same with this one. Again, mind a little pressure to get beyond this point. Then you take the tiny little feet and you will rotate those all the way around so they're facing the opposite direction, and do the same with this one as well. You should now have something that looks like this. What you want to do is take these legs, bend this up and then this part down, turn it around, do the same. So bend up the thigh, bend the knee down a bit. That's kind of it. You now put them down. You want to just stabilize the legs a little bit so the feet are correct and stuff as much as you can. I tend to splay the legs out a little bit like that. I'll show why in a minute. And that's sort of it. That is, well, pretty much the transformation complete. No, it's not great. So here's the bug mode, and I have to say it's pretty lacking. And it was never a great bug mode when it was back in the original 1985 toys, but it might be worse in the modern iteration. I think the fact this is basically Kickback doing a push-up does not help, and though it is faithful to the original, that's not a good thing. I can't really compare Ransack to the original, as I never saw the original in hand, and this is not taking many cues from that anyway, as I believe it was a totally different toy and mould from Kickback. That said, I do feel for some reason Ransack pulls off the look a bit better, but I think it's more to do with the colours and of course the very bug-like head. If you want to up the bug factor, you can either take those sword things and attach them to the wings so they have extra wings. I don't know, looks silly to me. Or you can combine them to make a kind of thorax for them, which I feel definitely adds a lot to the look and once again looks way better on Ransack than Kickback. Just remember to combine them like this or it won't slot in correctly. But there, I think they just look so much better with those in, and it definitely adds something extra. You can also store the guns nicely underneath out of the way. I feel for the bug mode, considering neither are good, Ransack not only wins but actually pulls off looking buggy enough to be decent, especially at certain angles. I'm going to go with on this that my total verdict would be for robot mode, it definitely goes to Kickback. But for the insect mode, I think I'm giving this one to Ransack. On to our next contestants, and we have the OG Shrapnel and his kinda clone Chop Shop. Now, just looking at these boys next to one another, and you'd be forgiven for thinking they were considerably different, but actually both are identical apart from colours, heads, and their pincer mandible things or whatever they are. That is, every other part of the moulds are exactly the same. No swappable heads here, so let's look at the differences in more detail. A close look at the heads, and I have to say I find Shrapnel's kind of boring. The face is nicely sculpted and detailed, and I like the visor, but the actual head itself is very generic. Chop Shop, however, gives off that full-on 90s, 80s evil robot vibe, and I think looks friggin' amazing. I will say, at least on my copy, the paint apps on his head are a bit iffy, however, it's not terrible. Shrapnel's pincers are okay, if a bit dull, and they have more of a sort of technological blaster look or effect going on with them, whereas again, Chop Shop's mandibles just totally rock. They look like they could do some serious damage and just add to that alien insect feel. The rest of the figures are the same, and both do a good job of looking cool, but I have to say, whatever Shrapnel does, I think Chop Shop just does it better. I've nothing against the colours of Shrapnel, they are good. Matter of fact, I love me some purple, but the oranges and browns just scream creepy crawly more to me. The only other notable difference is that Chop Shop comes with some extra legs that clip to his underarms that just add more to that buggy aesthetic. Shrapnel does not come with these and instead gets some blasters that sort of double up as appendages, though unconvincingly, and add some stability in insect form. Oddly, Chop Shop also comes with these, but it's a baffling inclusion as he already has these better, more buggy legs in place. Now you can remove them and move those buggy legs elsewhere, such as the shoulders, but it feels like it doesn't really add anything. I suppose the option's nice regardless. You can use them as handheld blasters if you want for both characters, but as their main guns look better, I just don't see why you would. As for that main blaster, they're once again identical, barring the paint applications. And in this, Shrapnel just looks way better, with the silver paint making it pop more than the shitty or chocolatey brown on Chop Shop. Unfortunately, the silver paint on my copy is chipped a bit here and there, which sucks, but I have to say Shrapnel still comes out on top here. Articulation is the same on both, with heads that can only rotate with no other movement. Arm articulation is good. They can point straight out to the side, are generally unimpeded in all directions, though again the mandibles, or whatever you want to call them, can get in the way if you rotate them upwards, but it's a minor issue. There is bicep swivel, elbows pulled just beyond 90 degrees, and the fist can rotate inwards due to transformation, but no wrist swivel. Waist has a full 360 degree rotation. Legs can kick out in all directions with no obstructions. And there's a thigh swivel as well. The knees pulled 90 just about. And finally there's a rocker on the feet, which also has a toe down due to transformation. All in all, the articulation's pretty standard. Not bad, but nothing to shout about either. Transformation's very simple. Take these two pieces, push them in front of the face to cover it up. Then we're going to take the antennae or mandibles and move them to roughly this position. Then we're going to grab the waist and we are going to simply rotate it 360 degrees, try to make sure it's straight. Then we take the arms and we're going to take the fists here and just move them in. I like to splay the arms out like this, just makes it easier. We're then going to take the legs and you'll see there's a flap here that we want to be opening up. And obviously we're also going to repeat that on this side so that it's opened here as well. Not important, but I do like to clip the legs together at this point. Then we're going to take the toes, push them straight down. Now we're going to rotate this entire section into itself. It's kind of a little fiddly, so if you kind of twist it a bit like so, the legs will disappear into the lower legs, and then there's two tabs that will actually just click in satisfactorily. This is what you should end up with. With that done, we're going to take the two tabs that are on this arm, and we're going to push them into the holes on the side. They should tab in fairly firmly. Once you've done that, you're going to get the other side, do exactly the same, give it a little squeeze, make sure it's together. It should look like this. Finally, we're going to take these insect legs on the back, pop them open, and we are done. And here we have it. Shrapnel is now a brick with pincers. Yes, I know it's true to the original toy, but with all the nostalgia aside, it's probably not a great decision. It was never a convincing insect form, and it still isn't. And I mean what I say about a brick with pincers, because if you remove them, this is Bumblebee movie Soundwave levels of crappy alt mode. So, is Chop Shop as bad? Well, no, but I think the colours and the more integrated looking mandibles help massively, as do the antennae on the head. And that's kind of true even without the extra legs. However, add them on and oh yeah, this just does a fab job of looking like some sort of alien robot beetle. Without a doubt, Chop Shop wins for the alt mode, hands down. Worth noting, you can add the guns underneath for storage, which is nice, and you can add those extra blasters to the back part of Chop Shop, and it doesn't look too bad at all either. I have to say, overall, looking at them together, and the winner on this, alt mode and bug mode, is Chop Shop, easily. Our last head-to-head is between Bombshell and Barrage, who, though sharing a mold, are more different than the last few matchups. So what are these differences? Well, obviously straight away you can see the colour differences, and I have to say that another black and purple guy is fine, but damn, that green and other green just pops. It's amazing how just colour changes can make such a difference, but they do. And this is an area that Barrage just smashes it. Next, we have the heads, and these are night and day in appearance, sharing nothing at all in common. Well, except one minor annoyance, and that is the heads cannot swivel a full 360 degrees, either of them, which seems an odd choice till you realise the other major difference, but more on that later. Back to the heads, and though Bombshell does look kinda cool, it also looks kinda stupid as well. I do love the almost medieval knight sort of styling to him, but the weird hat and gun just looks sort of iffy. It's hard to find a good way to have him style it, though not quite covering his face seems to have the best vibe, or you can just go naked and have it back like some sort of robo ponytail, which looks half decent as well. Barrage, however, well, this guy's head sculpt absolutely rocks. It looks alien and menacing with some nice buggy undertones from the sort of antennae, and the almost squatness of the head makes him look chunky and powerful. This one definitely goes to the green board. Next we move to the next big difference, and that is the body sculpt, as they're totally different. With Barrage having an ornate sort of chestplate and Bombshell the more recognisable yellow cockpit thingy. An area Barrage suffers over Bombshell is that his arms have the mushroom pegs very visible, whereas Bombshell doesn't. And wait a second, hang on. Yep, Barrage is simply Bombshell with the torso the wrong way round. Sneaky. Once you realise this, then you can compare and see that with the exception of the bug chest plate on Barrage, the body sculpts are once again identical. You can even kind of swap the arms around to have Barrage face the opposite way if you wanted, not that I can see any reason to do so. Bombshell even has a small hinge pot that does nothing that now makes sense when you see how Barrage transforms. It's also interesting that as the heads cannot turn a full 360, you can't reverse Barrage fully in that way either. Was this on purpose or not? Who knows? Or cares? I will say the pegs being visible is more unsightly, but I still think it's a clever way of making two characters feel more different. Accessory wise, they actually have the same, just in different colours. Both have a blaster, with Bombshells looking nicer due to being painted in silver as opposed to the base green plastic of Barrage's, and both also come with two, I guess, underarm guns? They're using them this way for Barrage makes no sense due to him coming with two insect leg accessories as well. You can combine these guns to make the main blaster a sort of triple gun, which looks fine though works better for the all green of Barrage over the silver and base black plastic for Bombshell. They can be put in your hand to give a sort of dual wield option, but they don't look as good doing this as the guns are quite slim looking. A third option of mounting them above and below the fist gives a kind of fun dual blaster look, which I like, but as Bombshell can simply wrist mount these, it's more of an option for Barrage. Moving on to articulation. And unsurprisingly, anything A can do is true of anything that B can do. GamerBug from the future here, and just to point out, I did get something slightly wrong here. I say whatever A can do, B can do, and though that is true, in one instance, that is simply reversed. And that reversal is that Barrage here has a forward butterfly in his shoulders due to transformation, and unsurprisingly, Bombshell has a backwards butterfly in his shoulders due to exactly the same transformation. Back on with the video. As noted before, heads can swivel but are impeded with some shoulder things that serve no purpose except to get in the way of head rotation. Visible screws on Barrage make this more of an unsightly issue. Arms are impeded out to the side by some appendages and those shoulder lumps. However, you can actually unclip these and get past the standard straight out, which is nice. I also have no knowledge of why these can unclip, as they do not come into play for either mode besides in their basic clipped in position. Besides this, the arms are unimpeded all the way around. They have a bicep swivel and the elbows go past 90 degrees a fair bit. Hands can swivel in for transformation, giving a bit more articulation, but it's limited. Again, no wrist rotation at all. The waist swivels all the way round. Legs can kick out in all directions easily, and there is a thigh rotation as well. Knees do a bit less than 90 degrees, and we have a rocker and we have a toe down for the transformation purposes. I would say, as with the others, it's a good level of posability, but not game changing. They can do some really good and sturdy kneeling poses, as can the other Insecticons as well, which is nice. On to transformation. First thing we're going to do with Bombshell is get his little hat here and push it into this hole. This tab's rubberized so it doesn't always stick in that well, and you might get some paint chipping too, so I don't push it in too hard. Then we take the arms and we're going to fold the fists in as well. Then we take the other arm and we're going to do exactly the same. I like to have them splayed out like this, just keeps them out of the way. Next, we're going to grab here and we're going to rotate the waist all the way around so it's facing the opposite way. Then we're going to turn him over and in a move that's very similar to Shrapnel earlier, open up these panels on the lower legs, one here and one here. Then also like Shrapnel, we're going to get both these feet and pull them down. You may be seeing a pattern here. Then we're going to squeeze the legs together. I find it easier from this side, just like we did with Shrapnel. And then we're going to fold the legs up inside themselves, just like we did with Shrapnel. And then there's two tabs, as we can see here and here, just like Shrapnel. And we're going to clip them in together. Just be careful that make sure it's straight. And you should end up with something looking a bit like this. Now we're going to take the arm and we're going to rotate this butterfly joint down. And then we're going to rotate the biceps to the 5mm ports at the bottom. Then we are going to, if you look, take this tab that is on the arm here, and that's going to go into the top of the thigh here. There's also a small one here that will pop underneath this kind of flap at the side. So try to get the one into the thigh first. It is tricky, and then you'll be able to get the other one underneath the side. Then take this side, do exactly the same over here, butterfly joint in, rotate that, no, wrong way, rotate that the correct way, and then again, try to get that into there. This can be tricky, I'm going to say that. Try always to get it into the thigh first. It's still not in there, you can see, you'll know it's in, it'll be flush and flat, and when it does, you'll hear that side one also snap into place, just like that. And there we have our initial bug mode. But what we're going to do now is we're going to grab the feet and we're going to slot each of those on the bottom. These were the kind of the underarm guns. You can leave them on during transformation. There's no reason to actually take these off. And once we've put those into place, we have our transformed bug mode. Onto Barrage. So for Barrage, what we're going to do is hinge this up and out of the way. Otherwise it just does get in the way. As we do not need to rotate the waist, as he's already backwards, I'm going to take the feet and fold those down, and then we're going to get these doors and open them up, and we're going to click this together. Will it go together nicely? It did without having to do that. That's good. They're going to move into here now, just like we did before on Bombshell. The joints on this are really tight, I am going to say that, so this is going to take some doing. Come on, get into place. There we go. And as before, we've got the tabs here and the holes that are just going to slot in together, and just make sure those are all lined up nicely. There we go. Next, we're going to take the fists, and as with Bombshell, we're just going to push those up inside and do the same on this side. And weirdly enough, like Bombshell, we are now going to use this butterfly joint to fold the arms underneath, like that. However, we are not going to have the 5mm port to the bottom, we're actually going to have it to the side. And that's because if you can look, it's hexagonal, it's going to fit into this little hexagonal slot. There are also some tabs that will kind of go in on the bottom. I find the tolerances here are a little bit tricky on my copy, and they can need a bit of squishing into place, and even then they're not perfect. So do the same on this arm, and we're going to push the 5mm port up into there so that hexagon just fits in that slot. And if we have a look underneath, we're going to have a see, and you can see they're not in perfectly. There is where those the tabs that are sticking out to the side, there's another tab underneath that does try to go into a slot, but they often like to just pop out. I don't know what it is with my copy and whether that's a common thing or not, it just happens on mine. Lastly, take this stag beetle part and kind of position it however you want. It doesn't cover the head perfectly, but that's an Insecticon thing. It looks all right, but you know, you can fiddle around with it and just put it exactly where you think looks best. Then we're going to take these legs and pop them onto the 5mm port at the side. You want them going backwards. Now you can leave these on all the time. You don't actually have to take them off. They don't need to be used in a parts forming way. I just wanted to show you how they go. So once they're on like that, and you put this one on this way, so you want them so the legs are going backwards, then basically you have yourself a fully transformed bug. Now if I was hard on Shrapnel's bug mode, then you can be damn sure I'm going to be hard on Bombshell, because he looks friggin' rubbish. Whereas Shrapnel at least had the pincers to aid him looking like an insectoid thing, Bombshell has no such thing, having only a weird looking trunk, for want of a better word. And yeah, with a stretch of the imagination, you could say bug-like eyes, but we're really stretching there. This is easily the worst of the Insecticons bug modes by a long shot, and it is not good. So how does Barrage fare? Well, better for sure. The stag beetle horn things, the antenna, the extra back legs, this all massively helps to add to a more insect look. It's certainly not perfect, but it deserves much more of a pass. The colours help a lot as well. Side note, there is nowhere that doesn't look naff to put their main weapons on the alt modes, as there's only the two 5mm ports on the back, and in Bombshell's case, only one gun, and in Barrage's, 3, or one big combi gun, making them look pretty crap when you add them into those ports. Now, you can split those two smaller weapons and mount them on top, but I think that still looks kind of shite, and not something I'd do. There are two small slots underneath that you think maybe the gun might store in, but the only part that could potentially fit is actually too big, which is a shame. I guess these accessories just get left on the side. So the final verdict? Well, here I have to say the win goes unanimously to Barrage in both modes. Okay, so I used my big math brain, no calculator needed, to tally up the scores, and found out that the original Insecticons won 1. They came out with Kickback just being the better of the robot modes, which gave 5 wins basically to the Deluxe Insecticons. Now, considering they actually stole and used the same molds from the original Insecticons in the Legacy line, that's quite the trouncing. Oh well, sucks to be the originals, I guess. Anyway, I hope you like this video, and if you do, as I said at the beginning, please leave a like, and as I also said at the beginning, subscribing so helps this channel, and it does help me bring more content like this in the future. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, GamerBugUK.